Greetings students, it's Malhar sir again with one of the essay that has been written by our student. I'm just going to go through that and then I'll get back. I'll provide some of the some valuable feedback that I feel the student could do in order to improve their band score. I'll also comment on what type of band score this particular student can expect towards the end of the essay. So without much further ado, let's get started. So the topic is very simple. Nowadays people have to work. So this is the topic. Okay, so nowadays people have to work for longer hours under stressful conditions. Do you agree or disagree with this statement? Suggest the ways by which job conditions can be improved. So basically it's a two-part question. So we're going to focus on both the parts equally. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that before you start writing this essay, you should define longer hours. So when we say longer hours, it means that anything above 8 hours a day would be considered longer hours. And then you also need to define stressful conditions. So stressful conditions, I'll give you some time to note down on what can be considered as a stressful condition. So you can pause the video, note down some of the points which you feel can be considered or can attribute to stressful conditions, and then you play the video again and I'll list out a few of the stressful conditions. Okay, so according to me, the stressful conditions can be equipment's not working. So let's say you deal with computers and the internet connection is not good, or the computer is lagging behind. It can be that your co-workers are not that accommodating. It can be that your boss is expecting more of you. It can be that the working environment is not productive. So maybe it's quite far from your home, or it does not have good food availability. The chair on which you sit is not comfortable. Your working space is not comfortable, and so on and so forth. These are some of the stressful conditions which I can think of. Hopefully you were able to think a few more. So let's see what this student has written. Okay, so in this highly developing era, it is believed that working conditions in almost every corporate world is severely demanding for employees. Okay, so now as such it's a fine sentence, right? But the student has focused on corporate world. Now it's not just corporate world, right? You look at government employees, like as compared to 10 years, obviously if you ask them now, I understand that a lot of you would feel that government employees don't work that much. But if you ask them that can you compare your working conditions as compared to like a decade ago, and they'll say that yeah, it's very stressful for them. So it's a stressful condition would be a comparative term. So okay, it's not an absolute term. So I would rather stay away from the word corporate and just mention that nowadays working conditions are becoming unnecessarily stressful, and extended hours is one of the things which is the main factor, or something like that. Okay, continuing. Additionally, workers have to work under high pressure and prolonged period of time. So that's perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. Here I completely agree that in this challenging time, it is essential for people to work hard and more. Okay, so the student is agreeing with the statement. If you look at the statement, it says that nowadays people have to work for longer hours under stressful conditions. So is it true? And the student is saying yes, it is true that they have to work for longer hours under stressful conditions. So the students need to list the reasons behind that. Anyway, consequently, there are, so obviously the student has omitted a word here, there are ample reasons to support this whereas presence of solutions such as dividing, so spelling mistake is there in dividing. Now this type of spelling mistake can easily be avoided if you recheck your essay. So that is something which I encourage students to do, especially if you want to cross that 7-band mark. You should recheck your essay. Okay. Such as dividing work by making groups and set appropriate targets help to make their life easy. There can be improvement here. So instead of dividing work by making groups, so when you make groups, you are not actually so you need, this is where you can use vocabulary. Okay, so allocating work, distributing work, okay, like things like that can be used, and set appropriate targets. So I would rather use the word checkpoints rather than targets, because a work is a continuous thing. It is a never-ending thing, right? So if someone is working, let's say in so if someone is working as a telecaller, then it's easy to identify the target value. But if someone is working in a processing office, like it is difficult to attribute targets to that. So it's better to use word like checkpoints. All right. So it's a pretty good introduction. Just on the basis of the quality of introduction, this student can easily score above 7. Provided that the student does not make simple spelling mistakes like the one that we have seen with dividing, and does not omit words. Okay, so because the student has omitted word, had some simple spelling mistakes, that will restrict the student between 6.5 to 7. Firstly, obviously the F would be capital here. It is noticed that there are deadlines to many projects, and in that sense, not only the quality but the time in which the same is executed also becomes significant, which is responsible for overwork. So obviously there needs to be a comma here, and there is a spelling mistake here. So I believe that would create a problem. Eventually, to counter this issue, it is essential to divide the responsibilities by making small groups of employees. As a result, the mental stress and working hours decrease. Now it does not become decrease. Working hours decrease. Become is not needed here. Comma, which help to improve workers' performance. Now again, so there's some simple mistakes. Now when a student makes such a simple mistake, it affects their band score greatly. So I would highly recommend students to make sure that such simple mistakes should be avoided at all time. So mainly what okay, let's finish this sentence first. This paragraph first. For an instance, N is not needed here. For instance, one article was published in Business Magazine in which there is a comparison. No, there was a comparison between two projects. Full stop. So again, this will be capital. First project was done, again a word is missing, was done by group of workers, whereas other was completed by single individuals. As a result, okay, or conclusion was that group of employees performed better than single workers. Plural will be coming here because it's group of workers. Hence, to reduce stress and overtime, workers should work in groups, not have to work in groups. Workers should work in group, because you understand one thing, there are types of work which can be done better if people are doing independently or individually, right? So you cannot generalize that all the works or all types of tasks, if done in group, are performed in a better way. So that is a overgeneralization, so students should stay away from such instances. Now, getting to this particular paragraph, what I would like to say is that it is not up to the mark as what was written in the introduction. So I have reduced my prediction for this student from 6.5 to 7, 6.5 bands to 6 bands. Okay. What this student is doing is that it's listing the problem and also suggesting the ways in which the conditions can be improved at the same time. So that's perfectly fine. Continuing. Secondly, now obviously the S needs to be capital. It is agreed that desire for more target achievement and profit of work sectors force employees to work immensely for long hours. Okay. Now here the student has written desire for more target achievement. Now most of the time employees are not they don't want target achievement, right? It's forced on them by the management. So it is agreed that pressure to achieve targets, so that would be a more appropriate way to present the information, and profit and increase the profits. That's how the student should have written instead of just profit. So desire to meet the targets and increase profit forces employees to work immensely for long hours. So that would be a more appropriate sentence. Importantly, in the process of goal achievement, there are times when employees have to work under article is missing here, lot of stress and anxiety. Thus, to address this concern, targets set by the management must be according to the worker's capacity and capabilities. Otherwise, it is difficult to achieve and it will lead to frustration and decline in performance, not decline performance. Either it would be decline in performance or declining, ing form, declining performance. For example, many studies proved that desire for more profit and higher achievements ultimately demise the output and hinder benefits of companies. Okay, it's all right, better than the second paragraph, so I again increase my prediction for this particular student to 6.5 bands. Let's look at the conclusion. In conclusion, I strongly agree that workers have to perform under pressure and for prolonged period in almost all the places. However, with some corrective measures, people can address this issue. So obviously I won't write the word people, I'll probably write the word employers or companies or decision-making individuals or something like that, because we want to focus on that. Now, my overall view for this essay is positive, so I'm just going to keep it at 6.5. However, if you look at the question again, nowadays people have to work for longer hours under stressful conditions. So stressful condition can be due to excessive targets or inability to achieve those targets. But there are, as I mentioned initially, there can be other stressful conditions which has simpler solutions. So it's always advisable to write a sentence in conclusion, something like apart from the above listed conditions, stressful conditions, there are other conditions as well, and they are highly subjective. So depending on the working environment, the solutions would vary, and it should be customized for each and every I would say each and every workplace. Now that particular sentence would have a far better impact when the examiner is assessing your essay, as it would clarify your stand that these are not the only stressful conditions, which is inability to achieve targets, and the first one, which is inability to accomplish a task on their own. Okay, so this student would probably score around 6.5. The student had appeared for exam on I think 11th or 7th of March. So I'll let you know how much the student actually scored in the real exam and how close I am towards the actual assessment. Hopefully this would have been beneficial to you. If you want your essay to be evaluated, you can always email it to me. Now I cannot assure you it will be checked straight away, but I will check it as soon as I get time. This is Malhar sir from VIEC. Thank you very much. Hopefully you guys are practicing. I have also shared one of the links on Telegram, which is world-newspapers.com, and I would like to visit that website once. So let's quickly open that website. because a lot of students are not aware about it, and I just want to make sure that everyone is aware about that. Now this is the website. Now if you look at on the left hand side, they have mentioned magazines, and then there are categories, right? So I want and like now if you are opening this on your mobile phone, you'll probably have to scroll down a little bit to reach the magazines section. And then what I want is that especially those students who are free throughout the day, or those who are traveling to college, or because a lot of students they study in far colleges like Marwadi or Gardi. If there is a lot of commuting time, if you can read at least one article on each topic, it will broaden your knowledge base, which will help you in speaking as well as in writing. Okay, so for example, you can take computer and internet. Then you can just open any magazine that you want. Okay, some of the magazines are paid, some are free. So if it's a paid one, you can just turn it off. If it's a free one, then you just click on any article that interests you, and I want you to read through the whole article, identify any words that you feel are a vocabulary word or that you are not aware about, and something new. Don't make a list of those words, because, well, let's face it, it's not going to help you a lot, but over the time, the more words you go through, the better you will get. Okay, so for example, tangled, right? Very common word, a lot of students are aware about it, but most of the time they're not able to use it. Okay, so evaluation of personal tag, and there are a lot of things, right? You just go through that. This will broaden your knowledge base. For example, a lot of students might not be aware about 5G now, or the cloud. Okay, they might have a brief idea, but if they are asked that, okay, can you make a logical discussion, or can you have a logical discussion on the cloud with someone? Now if you're from a computer field, or if you're a techno freak, that's a different thing, but apart from that, it will be difficult for a lot of people. And you can get something like which is the latest piece of technology which you feel would take over the world, or which is essential, which has become essential. Now that can be a topic in writing, that can be a topic in speaking. If you don't know about such piece of technology, it creates a problem, right? So this website is pretty good, as I mentioned. So you can just there are a lot of sections. You can just read on each topic a day, and that will you can see improvement within a month. Like if you just practice it for 1 month, you will see the improvement. Anyway, thank you very much. Hopefully I'll see you guys later. And if you have any essays that you want me to assess in this group only, Telegram group, I have shared my email address, which is on the top. I think it was the first post which I did. You can just send me your essay, but make sure that you type it. I don't want scanned essay because it becomes difficult for me to assess. Thank you very much, and have a good one. Bye bye.